Every human being has two types of life: the internal life and the external life. Okay, the internal life is in your mind, the kind of life you live in your mind, what you think, and the external life is the outside life, the life you live externally, with other people and experience. So for some people, these two types of life are very different. What they live in their mind and their hearts may be different from what they live outside. And one of the definitions of success is if you can bridge the gap between the life you live inside and the life you live outside, then you can begin to count yourself as, you're starting to be successful. There is the life you live inside, the thoughts you think, and the visions you have, and what you think about most of the times, and then what you are experiencing on the outside. So, one of the ways you can chase success in life is to try to bridge the gap between the two. Okay, to try and make sure what is on the outside is almost similar to what's on the inside. Okay, what you think about yourself on the inside, how close is it to what you are experiencing on the outside? So that's one of the signs of success. And one of the signs of failure is having a very different life inside and a very different life outside. Okay, when inside you're a different person living a different life in your mind and heart, and outside you're also a different person experiencing a different life. Okay, so that's the first point like I want to make before you go into what I want to speak about today. Because the inside life is real and the outside life is real. What you think about yourself on the inside, who you think you are on the inside, and who you are on the outside, or who the world tells you are on the outside. So this now what happens in most cases is that in life there are two types of consequences of every action and word that we say, or everything we do in life. We have external consequences and internal consequences. The external consequences are, we could argue, criticism from other people. Uh, like what can happen to you physically if you do something. Like, let me give you an example. If I'm to climb a tree and then I jump, the external consequences are I may fall down and get hurt. That's an external consequence. Like if I punch someone in the face, they may punch me back. That's an external consequence. Like if I abuse someone, they may abuse me back, and we get into a verbal fight. That's an external consequence. And there are many external consequences. Okay. Equally, if I smile at somebody, they may smile back at me. That's an external consequence. If I help someone, they may help me back. Those are all external consequences. And in most cases, we worry so much about external consequences and we forget the internal consequences. Because the difference between external consequences and internal consequences is that external consequences are not so permanent, I could say. They can be, very intense, but you don't live with them so much, like in most cases. Okay, some of them we live with them for a very long time, but some of them we don't. But the internal consequences are the ones you live with almost for the rest of your life. You live with them for the rest of your life. And the internal consequences may be like, if you do something, like how will you feel about it? Like how will you feel about yourself? You know, how will it make you feel about you? Those are the internal consequences we are talking about. And some of the examples I can give you of the internal consequences are depression is an internal consequence of something. Depression doesn't just come out of anywhere. It comes out of, it follows a pattern. Then the other one is happiness and joy. It's an internal consequence. Like it doesn't get created out of nowhere. It comes out of decisions or actions, or it's an internal consequence. The other one could be feeling good about yourself. The other one also could be feeling bad about yourself. The other one could be guilt. The other one could be confidence. All those are internal consequences. and they also come out of actions and decisions and words equally, like the internal consequences. And in most cases, I think this is something that you can notice if you are very observant, is that sometimes people care so much about the external consequences and they forget the internal consequences. Yet the internal consequences are also real, like they are also real, and they can make or break you. They can make or break you. So like in whatever you do, in whatever you decide, you also think about the internal consequences. You should have a balance. You should have a balance between the internal consequences and the external consequences. You know, because in whatever actions you do, some people may fear criticism, which is could be prudent. Some people may fear, being hated by other people. Then they end up doing things that make them to hate themselves. I see. You may do things when you're trying to avoid external consequences, and then the internal consequences catch up with you. I see. You may do things that compromise your values just because you want to make people happy, and then you end up hating yourself. You end up like not being happy at the end of the day. That's what I'm trying to say. So it's always a balance between the two. It's a balance between the two, because if you don't care about your internal consequences long enough, you will have a very peaceful life outside, but inside it will be a very, unhappy life inside. You'll be, it will be a very violent life, let me say, inside, conflicted life on the inside. Then the opposite is true, on the other side also. Like, if you take your internal consequences seriously, and if you care about them, and if you choose to be authentic, to be yourself, sometimes it may make the external consequences to be, a bit violent or a bit critical. People may criticize you, they may say this, but at least if you are being yourself, then you'll be very happy on the inside and you'll be contented on the inside. But it may set some storms on the outside. It may make the outside to be, how can I say, troublesome. And you see it all the time. You see it all the time. Like, you may have people who are criticized so much on the outside, but on the inside they are happy, they are confident, they know what they are doing. They know what they are doing, and you normally see it with the people who have power, and business. You could say people like Elon Musk. Elon Musk has been criticized a lot of times, but the man is confident, he's still doing his business. Look at Donald Trump. Donald Trump has been criticized most of the times, but there are some things he has made peace with, like inside himself, and he knows who he is. That's why he's able to do all the things he does. So you can learn something from that. Yeah, make peace with yourself and make peace with some things about you, and just know that there's nothing wrong with you, for being yourself. But also know that your actions and your words also have impacts on the world. They have impacts on the world, because there are two impacts of your action and words. Your actions and words, they affect other people, but they also affect you. I see. So you should always look at those two things. How do they affect other people, and how do they affect you? If you can balance between those two, then you can harmonize between your internal world and your external world. In other words, that's what I'm trying to say. Your words and actions, they affect other people, but they also affect you. So if you only care about how they affect other people, and you don't care about how they affect you, you may end up losing yourself in the process, and you may stop being authentic, and you may become somebody else. You may become a photocopy, and even the Bible says it. I will put the verse up there. If your conscience does not condemn you, then you can confidently step into God. I think that's what John says, and also Paul says it in Timothy. If you lie so much, your conscience becomes branded, like it becomes blotted out, so that you can no longer feel God. So we need to care about the internal man, because the internal man is the one who responds to God, especially in the in the world today, where we have very many noise outside. So God speaks more on the inside in the world today, because there's a lot of noise on the outside. So God speaks on the inside. So care about the internal man, care about the inner man as much as you care about the outer man, because your words and actions, they affect the outer man, your image in public, but they also affect the inner man, your image with yourself, your image with yourself. It's also very important. So don't compromise your values. Don't lie to yourself. Be honest with yourself. If you say you're going to do something, you do it. Okay. Don't say I'm going to do something and then you don't do it. Don't let yourself down, because if you let yourself down, you create a track record. You may even lose respect for yourself. So don't do things that make you lose respect for yourself, and also watch out for the things that make you lose respect with other people. So it's a balance between the two. That's what I'm trying to say today. We have internal consequences and external consequences. So your words and actions, it is true to care about how they affect other people, but also how they affect us. Because if you don't care about how your words and actions affect other people, you may not have a positive impact on the world the way you are supposed to do. Let me end with this. And if you also don't care about how your words and actions affect you, you may also not have a very positive image with yourself that will help you to lift yourself up. So it's a balance between the two. We are always lifting ourselves up, and we are also lifting other people up, I think. So mind about both of them. Okay. Don't only care about lifting other people up and you don't lift yourself up, and don't only care about lifting yourself up and you don't lift other people up. Okay. So let us look at the internal consequences and the external consequences, and we take them seriously. So I hope you've learned something today, and see you in the next one. Peace. Thank you. I'm out.